Hi, this is Howie from Prime Your Pump, entertaining and actionable self-improvement. And this week's video is about how a statistician, me in particular, sees relationships. And it's going to be different from how most of you see relationships. So maybe you'll find this of some interest. Now, I have a pretty unusual view of the world. I see the world as a complex, interrelated set of processes or systems. And I use the word process and system interchangeably. And a process or a system, as I said before, is an interrelated group of components working towards a common aim. So examples of relationships that are processes are your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your parent, your relationship with your child, your relationship with friends, your relationship with colleagues, your relationship with the IRS, just to go off in a completely different direction, just to name a few, okay? And as I had said earlier, and it's worth repeating again here, a process or a system is an interacting group of components working towards a common aim or mission. And this is what a relationship is, a complex group of components working towards a common mission or an aim. So, how do you view your relationships with others or groups of people? And there are three things I'd like you to consider. First is your relationship or process, okay, must have a mission. And that is, where do you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, etc. The second thing is you have to identify the critical components of each of your relationships. And then you have to decide, what do you want out of these components, okay, of each relationship. And third and finally is you need some type of metric to tell you how well your relationship is going or not going. So let's start off with the first one. So first, your relationships, okay, with other people or groups of other people must each have a mission. And as I said before, the mission is going to tell you where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, etc. For example, my mission in life is to generate positive energy into the universe. And that is what I want written on my tombstone. I've said that before in other blog posts, but I'm serious about it. I don't want loving father, loving husband, okay, loving grandparent. I want to have generated positive energy into the universe. That's my mission. That's the first step. Where do you want to go? Second, okay, you have to identify the critical components of your relationships and what you want out of the relationships or out of those components. So here are some examples of critical components of a relationship. And this is just a brief list. Friendship, companionship, financial comfort, okay, spiritual comfort, children, travel, sex, okay? And these are just a few of the examples of what the components of relationships and what people want out of them. For example, if you take sex, some people may want very plain vanilla sex, other people may be very, very experimental. Okay, you have to understand what you want out of each component and how that relates to your mission statement. For me, generating positive energy into the universe. And all of these components that I just mentioned interact in unknown and very complex ways. And that is really one of the tricks in managing relationships, managing those interactions. And third, you need to have some type of measurement to know how your relationships are doing. And for our purposes, I'm going to use the number of fights, for example, someone has with their spouse every day. And I took a time period, October 2nd to October 16th, okay, of 2018, all right? And I picked 3 different types of relationships. And I'd like you to look at these slides for each one. So on the first slide, this is an excellent relationship. Here you can see between October 2nd and October 16th, this couple had 0 fights. Now, you may think that that's impossible, but I have to tell you that that, in fact, is my relationship with my wife. We don't really fight. Now, sometimes I might step backwards and she's standing right behind me and I step on her toe and she says, ow, and I'll get angry, but then we'll laugh at each other. So I'm not counting that as a fight. And if you have this kind of relationship, you should just keep doing what you've been doing. But now, here is the second type of relationship, and I call it a lousy relationship because you're predictably always fighting. And in this case, you have on average about 9.6 fights or about 10 fights a day on average. And the people in this relationship need to work, on how they can improve the relationship because it will predictably generate 9.6 fights per day on into the future unless something changes. Now, one thing that could change is go to couples counseling, just as an example. Another thing that could change is read a book on how to make a better relationship, etc. And the third type of relationship I call an on and off relationship. And this is a relationship that is unpredictably good and bad. So if you look at this picture here, you can see on October 2, 3, and 4, the relationship was pretty good. But then on October 4, 5, and 6, it was very, very bad. The number of fights went all the way up to 10 and higher. And then that pattern repeats itself. And in this relationship, it really needs help because A, it's unpredictable, and B, it's good or it's bad. So it's kind of terrible. And once again, maybe a therapist would help or going to read a book on it. So these are the three classic kinds of relationships and how a statistician would see them. For my mission statement, generate positive energy into the universe, I, of course, want relationship type 1, the 0. If I was at relationship type 2, a predictable average around 9.6, if I want to generate positive energy into the universe, I would go to a therapist. And the same for the on and off relationship and relationship 3. So use it, lose it to make it actionable. First, your relationship or process must have a mission, Second, you have to identify the critical components of the relationship and what you want from each component. And third, you need some type of measurement to tell you how your relationship is doing, And when to use it? Right now. That's when. Now. Start. And what do you think? Well, what do you think of my view as a statistician of relationships? I'm kind of curious. And please write back to us in the space provided below. We'd really like to know how you feel about this different kind of view. And before we go, make sure you read our other blog posts. And if you have a friend who would enjoy our blog posts, please refer them to our blog posts. And lastly, if you haven't already signed up for our weekly newsletter, please do so. And until next time, remember, prime your pump.